All right, so I wanted to introduce you guys to Gery, who's at Creatopy. And Gery, what do you do there at Creatopy? What's your role?
Yeah. My role is a bit more complex maybe than the average designer in startups. And I'm saying that I'm sit somewhere in between, of course, my design team, and I'm leading a design team, but I'm also a product person, working very tight with product teams, user research, and everything involved into that. But also at the intersection of business, sales, and the growth marketing teams, where I'm also like beyond just thinking and sharing resources and managing people from those cross-functional teams. I'm also more strategically involved into business, relationship with investors, and why not everything that comes with a business and growth layer too. So I'm more on I
So
would
all
say
of it.
designer at heart, but definitely along those lines. Yeah.
All of the roles. I guess, just following up on that, have you always been a designer in startups, or what's a little bit about your background and how did you get into being these many hats at a startup and really in charge of design there?
Yeah, not really actually. Of course, like many other designers, started way back with different environment and different world.
Mhm.
I used to, start learning on my own design and things like this when I was like 10, and from there I just got into freelancing, then some agency work, then a lot of the branding space, and all the cool world of graphic design.
Yeah.
But then moving into more like designing for products, more user experience, and then learning more about the product itself, how to manage, how to grow a product, how to build products people will love, and all the mechanics and finances of a startup. And of course, later on, I took some product management roles also. So wearing many hats in startups is pretty common, I'm
Mhm.
sure. But kind of this is how I got here. And now I actually manage a bunch of people working in various teams, with various backgrounds or on various skill palettes. Because actually, I consider myself more like let's say, a multidisciplinary guy, not really like I couldn't compare myself like to top-notch designers who are extremely good in product design or extremely good in I don't know, graphic design or branding.
Mhm.
I'm thinking I'm more like I understand a bit of each world and I did a bit of everything, but yeah, more like generalist.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, design has always interested me, and I actually tried a product design boot camp
Mm-hmm.
too, and just wanted to learn it. And it was interesting because I found that boot camp was really more preparing me for being a PM, because I learned a lot about user research and about the design process, but like not the technical side in there. So I was just wondering, like, just how did you end up becoming like interested and really seeing, like, after trying all these roles, saying like, designer is what I want to do, or this is my thing, is just being in charge of design. How did that happen for you?
I think it comes down to the, I don't know, DNA of everyone.
Mhm.
I guess somehow everything I did was related to design in a way, or more or less. Even when I was a product manager, I was responsible for the design experience, so it was related to the things I kind of enjoy at heart, I guess. But nowadays, even when we talk about product management, you mentioned
Yeah.
today's product management is definitely considered to be somehow on hybrid with a product designer's work or a user researcher's work. It has so many elements that are also common in another role. So what I see here today, we are talking about overlapping roles on different areas. So yeah, you can be a really good product designer and have some fascinating product sense and product thinking and prioritization also, but you can be also very good at mastering that craft and like outputting super good solutions and having that thinking, that exercise, of working and designing solutions. But I think it's just like you choose your path based on
Yeah.
like what is your true DNA in the end, and you
Nice.
remain like that. But I'm sure, like, I cannot consider a true product designer today who is not really involved also in the user research or not really understands what the product manager is doing.
Mhm.
I cannot really resonate with that, let's say,
So do you
in today's
see do you
world.
feel like in the future we're going towards these more integrated roles of like designers kind of being with more of these other departments? That's really
Yeah,
interesting that you said it, because it's like I've had very different experiences.
yeah, I guess it depends also on the size of the company. So I must say I'm always been in small agile companies, startups, Series A and things like this, where things are definitely way more flexible, I would say, or you're
Yeah.
wearing multiple hats. I'm sure if we're talking about an enterprise company with 10,000 employees, everyone has its own space and place. Definitely a different game. But I believe that the power is in cross-functional teams, and this is what we're seeing here working a lot, like creating a team with cross-functional roles, but everyone helping each other and kind of leaning on the other one is kind of the way to go in these small startup environments. And to do this, it requires some additional skills, at least, not really
Yeah.
like, or understanding for sure.
How
That's
big is your how big is the team that you manage?
we are 14 in the design team, but we are
Oh
talking
wow.
about kind of, yeah, a lot. But actually, we have, so first of all, Creatopy is designer oriented product. We are basically, so
Okay,
just as a bit of
that makes a lot
background,
of sense.
yeah, we are having plenty of things to do also for our clients, also when building our products, and also on the communication side. So the design team is serving three main purposes. One is like building the product and enabling the product. Also, the user research is part of the user experience team, design team. So we have the building the product, the solution, the R&D. We have the go-to-market teams. So we are having motion graphics artists, designers, graphic designers, branding people who are dealing with communication, and we also have some support roles, more like design advocates who are helping the sales team and helping some customers to achieve success, and more on that area. So yeah, I would say it's not a typical design team only focused on just one thing.
Yeah.
And everything we are doing in-house. That's another specialty, let's say. So we are having our own in-house agency type of thing too. So we are doing everything from ads to website, and everything we manage internally.
For your customers that you guys service.
For ourselves too.
Oh,
No,
cool.
for
Yeah,
ourselves too. Yeah.
that makes sense. And I guess in this process, maybe could you describe a little bit more about what Creatopy does?
Yeah, sure. I will explain more, and I think people will resonate with this one. And this is
Mhm.
kind of part of our vision here. So we used to say we are closing the creative gap. And what we mean by the creative gap is actually nowadays, so first and foremost, we are in advertising space, and this, let's say, asset design category. So Creatopy is helping you design your creative assets, your ads, and so forth. But when
Mhm.
we are talking about closing the creative gap, we mean that in the last 5 years we saw an exponential increase in the demand from agencies, designers, in-house teams to output so many various pieces of content, ads, variations. We
Mhm.
see the increase of localized campaigns, personalized campaigns, and this puts extremely big demand on the same teams, on the same people, using kind of the same tools.
Mhm.
But so we are talking about a huge gap between the resources you have at the company and the networks, the mediums, the channels that are more and more various in different sizes, in different formats. You need to run an ad from Instagram, on social media, on various other social media networks, on display, on Performance Max, and so many other platforms, and you need to
Yeah.
scale your campaign into
Mhm.
so many different versions when it comes to the deliverables, that basically we are seeing this big problem in the market where Creatopy can help. And this is where we enter with our solution, which is kind of a design tool on steroids, if you want to put it like that.
Yeah.
Because what Creatopy helps you is not really like just designing your ad, which can be made in so many other tools. We are like in your own tools that you're already using, and the agencies and the brands are already using. What we are trying to solve here is what comes after that. So you created your creative concepts. Maybe you have a good campaign idea, you have a good master creative,
Mhm.
but then you're a big brand and you need that in 20 languages for the entire continent, or for many other continents. Maybe you need the same concept adapted, localized, scaled up into like 100 sizes, for various mediums, channels, and platforms. And this is where Creativity helps in scaling this,
Mhm.
and yeah, closing this gap between what you have in at hands when it comes to other softwares and solutions, and how many people you can work with, and how many campaigns, and how creative and how good campaigns can you do. Because ultimately, if you go on this route and you want to scale these campaigns, you will lose the creative power. You will need to simplify your ads. You will need to go minimal. You will need to like adapt. And usually what we see is people are giving up on the, let's say, on the power of the creative, and ultimately your campaign will be affected.
Yeah.
But you can use tools and AI and other tools we offer to maintain the same storytelling, the same complex ad,
Mhm.
but scaled in so many other ways, and helping you basically do the same work in so many variants so much faster. So I think I
Yeah.
kind of give it a bigger picture of what we're doing, but this is the solution we are providing for customers. Yeah, it's not really in the past; it's still in the present. Like we are seeing a lot of teams still using Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Animate or not just Adobe. We're seeing Figma, we're seeing Canva, we're seeing all these tools used and will still be used. We still don't want to disrupt that world, maybe, because what we see and what we know is that each designer and each creator has its own preferred tools. It's like every master has its own tools,
Yeah.
that he keeps and he wants to use. And we want to facilitate this. So we don't really want to disrupt that world. We want to add another tool on top of that that has great compatibility and integration with that. And you can use the same tools going forward, but you have this extension that helps you. So maybe you created the best visual in Figma, but you need to animate it. You can go to Creatopy and animate it, and then
Mhm.
if you need it in 20 other sizes, with one click you can resize that. And this is the power of it. Or you created an ad, but you need 20 the same headlines translated into 20 languages. With Creatopy's AI tools, you can translate that in one click, and you can import your design and you can work from there. So we don't really want to change the way you do things in that sense that
Yeah.
you need to throw away everything you use today. But we
It's
know
cool.
that there are some things you still cannot do on the, let's say, classic tools. And this is a more like a productivity approach in design, let's say. Yeah, no, not really. It's not coming from the personal space. What we've invested a lot of time, and this is definitely I cannot say it enough for
Yeah.
any other product folks and design teams and so forth. We really over invested or invested a lot into user research. I cannot say it over invested because it's still not enough, maybe. But
Yeah.
user research is at the heart of this. So when you talk to a few people, you might find a lot of problems and interesting things to tackle on. But when you talk to 100 or 1,000 people, you will start to see patterns and you will start to see recurring themes, recurring issues, but said in so many other ways
Yeah.
sometimes. And what we've built is always anchored into these, let's say, pain points identified in our customers, that they are not, some of them are not really envisioning a solution. Some of them
Yeah.
are just talking about their problems. Some
Mhm.
of them are envisioning various solutions, but it's our job to craft the best possible solution, I believe.
Mhm.
But behind their solution, there's always the problem, which if you
Yeah.
can identify and really reframe it in the sense that that is the same problem that the other 100 other customers told you about, you will have a solid, let's say, idea about what you need to build, at least. Now, how you build it, how the solution works, and of course how that fits with the original problem, that needs further user research
Yeah.
and validation.
Yeah.
But I think that's the core of the learning, and where this all comes from. It's an
Search.
investment. Yeah, that's why I said that's why
Yeah.
I said that we invested a lot, because it's more time and of course resources, but it
Yeah.
gives you kind of like driving in clear weather, versus
Yeah.
driving in a foggy road, something like
So
that. Yeah, so you can break down this problem in many ways. I'm still
Mhm.
an advocate of, don't get me wrong, on iterate and learn fast
Yeah.
and go with it on all the things that kind of can go in that way. I mean, you cannot really lose much. You work a bit, then you validate something, you get an input, and you go forward. That's still a good approach, and it's still with everyone's hands to do that. If the problem is pretty clear, or is not that let's say risky, or not that big of a decision. When I'm talking about a lot of user research invested, is definitely in the space where discovery is needed,
Mhm.
where you don't know maybe the core problems of a new market, or a different type of companies that you want to do, or a new product that you haven't been for in a new market. So more strategic things require way more investment into these kind of decisions. So if you decide to launch a new product or a spin-off product from your, but what made for a different market with a different pain points, you cannot just go build and okay, you will validate something, yes, but the more you spend into the discovery phase without building from start, the clearer picture you get, definitely. And here we are more talking user experience and user research, more in the sense of interviews, focus groups,
Mhm.
talking with them with their job, what is their, because this is the space where we got our input from.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like fast iterations and testing things, is more like in the solution space, where you already
Right.
have a clear picture of what you need to build and why, and what is your customers will expect, and if you already demonstrated a kind of a product market fit, because that's also
Mhm.
kind of an important layer. So it really depends on where you are, at what stage, and what is the strategical level of your decisions that you need to take, I guess. So our process here is really inspired by Teresa Torres' books of the continuous discovery loops. So we are
Uh-huh.
basically implemented that like a few years ago, and it was the biggest shift in the way we develop product and build products. But what that means, like in a simple way, is that you need to do discovery work more like continuously, nonstop. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay.
You still have a roadmap. You still have to ship things or iterate on things or improve your current features. But having continuous talks with potential customers, having a loop in the pipeline of new customers or new potential or existing customers you can talk with, have interviews, just casual chats, and like discuss with their pain points, how they got to you, what they're trying to solve, what is their biggest time consuming things, and discovering patterns and repetitive tasks will give you confirmation. So this is a continuous process. It's not really like,
Yeah.
well, now we're doing 2 weeks of research and that's it. And the more you do, the better you get at it, for sure. And it's heavily co-working with the PM and the user research team. So it's usually these two people who have
Mhm.
constant calls and do these kind of things. And of course, good assets that helped us in this way. And the big shout out to Dovetail here, which is kind of
Oh,
our
that's so
user
funny. I
research
use Dovetail
repository.
too. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's amazing. It's an amazing
it's
tool
great,
for
right?
this. Yeah,
I
yeah.
that's just
Dovetail is amazing. Yeah, we're a huge advocate here and at Creatopy, and we're definitely a power users, I guess, on that
yeah,
one.
it's a very
Yeah, from a product perspective, I think it's a very good example of what it means to create an exceptional product. Very simple,
Mhm.
nothing unique in the sense of Dovetail can be replaced, yes, with a simple sheet of Google Docs or Notion or whatever else, but it's a tailored product for a specific need. And it really demonstrates that if you build a product that really solves one key problem in a niche space, but you really just focus on one thing, you can really be good and really ship great
yeah,
products, great
and they're like,
average. Yeah. Well, let's see. The tool I use the most today, and that will seem weird, I use Linear for my own personal task management.
okay.
Love Linear in that sense. Although, yeah, it's definitely the kind of tool that it's harder to implement, I guess, where teams are bigger and you have big engineering teams and people
Mhm.
who are used to Gyro or whatever else they use, ClickUp and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, but I love Linear and what they're doing, for sure. But also, I resonate with them as a designer, and this also comes down to DNA. I love what Framer is doing outside and how they communicate. What they ship, how they do all these things. I think it's an amazing team there. So yeah, along those lines, yeah, these are top of my head for now. But yeah,
Awesome.
no, we're fully transitioned to Figma, and I think we were one of the early teams. So back in the days when Figma was really like kind of a new tool, and everyone was using still Sketch. We were kind of early adapters. So yeah, now the whole team runs on Figma. Everything from visual design, and things, except when it comes to ads and what we do for our own tools and for creative campaigns. Of course, we use our own tool sets, and we use Creatopy for that.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm a big advocate of learning by doing. So on that
Mhm.
sense of things, I think you don't really know what to learn since you didn't reach that point you need to use, and you got to, because we always say that I wish I could learn more when we are looking back and we had a thing
Yeah.
that we had no idea how to solve. So yeah, and this is also my own appetite for new things. I'm constantly curious, constantly early adopter type of person who's looking for the next thing, for the next new challenge. So yeah, I think this is very important if you want to keep the pace with today's world and developments, for sure. Oh, that's a hard one. There are so many things that gave me so much joy along these lines. But to be honest, nowadays I'm minimal design work. It's more like guidance and feedback. But what I enjoy the most nowadays, and I think this will resonate with some fellow designers who maybe are are on this track of designer becoming a manager, and then you have all these management things to do and losing the touch and the craft of it. But what I find joy today a lot is seeing my team and seeing maybe juniors, or seeing other designers who are getting to do even better work than you were able to do, let's say, a few years ago. And you see these people grow and become not only better, but they become like masters of their craft, and kind of you enjoy way more. So I came to a place where I enjoy way more seeing how they thought about the solution, what is the end solution they came up from a problem, and how they solved it. And I have so much proud and joy seeing this happen with my team, that is actually fulfilling that space that you don't have anymore, that you don't do the craft, that you maybe don't have 8 hours to sit and work on one thing. So yeah, I think
That's really cool.
rewarding. Yeah,
Just,
agree. And you need to leave space for everyone to do their best of the work. I mean, that's essential.
our conversation. But one,
okay. So I think you need to have in place a few things there. So first, you need to set up the pipeline, how you get people to talk to you and why they should talk to you. So you need this pipeline to be set up. So there we have continuous efforts, automated emails, reaching out, offering maybe incentives, all these types of solutions to get people first to talk to you. I think that's essential. The way you do that can be manual or automated depending on the way you do it. Second is like, okay, setting the stage, setting these recurrent things. Sometimes you have a week with 3 interviews. Sometimes, when it comes to discovery, for sure. Sometimes you have 0, but then you just go and use these things. When it comes to these interviews, kind of we have a mandatory space. So it's kind of mandatory the product designer, the user researcher, and the product manager to be in that call. It's kind of, that's the core, let's say. You also don't want
3?
Sometimes one of them is shadowing. Sometimes the user researcher maybe is taking the notes, and the product manager is leading the call. Sometimes it's vice versa, and maybe the product manager is shadowing, and depending also on his workload, and how they split up, or who is the potential customer. What you don't want is like entering the call and 4 of you being there and one customer is like, it's just not suitable. Okay. But sometimes it's just user research and product manager, or just the product manager alone. But it's mandatory to be documented, recorded, and then we analyze, tag, all these kind of follow-up process that comes after that. We extract all the information that is relevant, and kind of manage the whole thing into Dovetail, which is our user research repository. So the process is kind of along those lines, is the setup, the interview, and what comes after. But the real insights and result is not really singular. What I mean by that is that we don't really look after each user research and reprioritize a roadmap or things like this. Like we are seeing the long-term benefits of this, because we are having a huge user research repository with all of our product areas mapped out, and we know exactly if now we say, okay, for the next queue, we will work on improving the animation capabilities of our tool, or the integration part. So let's say, how can we improve when it comes to integrations and connectivity and all that stuff? Now we'll have a huge pool of information that we can tap into, even if it's not our team who worked on that, even if it's we weren't involved into that before. But now we suddenly have a huge pool of information, ideas, requests, and so forth, feedback that we can work on and think on doing more interviews, or doing more validation, or just jumping straight to crafting the first iteration and go from there on a more agile phase. So we are using this more asynchronously, let's say, and we are seeking the whole platform. But of course, sometimes some information collected by some others can be used in your own space, that maybe your team is working on a specific area. So kind of this is the process in a nutshell, let's say.
That makes
But
sense.
this is more like on the discovery space. When it comes to validation, other kind of user research methods or surveys or all this kind of stuff, we are having in place so many other methods, but that's more related to general experience, or more related to a specific feature, or what is your experience with, I don't know, with AI, and typical things like this that are more isolated or in a specific amount of time only.
Like,
It's essential.
yeah, it
It's
sounds really
essential. It's
great.
essential. We believe it's essential because what we see is, compared to, like, yeah, we also had like other more dark times when we didn't need these kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
What we see, the change is that beyond just speaking the same language, that you now as a PM can talk to the designer on the same issues and the same problems, they also are way more motivated and involved by hearing directly from the customer and kind of having in mind the customer. So this is what we call internally we have this own internal value to be really customer centric and user centric, and we really want everyone to live this through the culture. I mean, of course, if you're working for a sales or customer support, yeah, you still are customer centric because you have to deal with them. But if you're
mhm,
an engineer, you can still be very much customer centric. You can join like interviews, you can join the calls with the clients, you can join, like, I don't know, all these other stuff to experience the close, being so close to the actual customer and their own problems. If the company you're working in puts an effort, and then, let's say, the expectancy level is set there, and you value this kind of behavior, yes, they will join and they will do this and they will understand why it's important. But of course, if the only thing you ask from your engineer is to write lines of code,
yeah,
and when he's
yeah,
done and that's it, yeah, he will they will do that. We also know, and of course not everyone is equal. Like, there are some roles, and I think this also comes down to the seniority levels that you're on as an engineer. Like,
mhm,
we don't expect this from junior engineers, of course, but we
mhm,
expect from, for example, senior engineers to do this, to come with us to specific calls, to enter into customer calls when, for example, then maybe they encounter a specific issue. Yes, you as an engineer, you need to come to talk to the client too, and be there to understand exactly, what is their problems. And this is not really like the long-term motivation. This is more like understanding and engaging and getting actually motivated by solving the problem.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say yes, mostly yes,
yeah,
definitely. This can improve like the overall connection with the mission of the company, with the things you do. But this needs time and practice. This usually doesn't develop like because you invited him to one call and now it's done.
yeah,
This needs to be also practice and the behavior to actually work. This is like the entire product development culture. So we
yeah,
are part of a whole like product development pipeline and
mhm,
cycles and so forth. But yes, this means I would say that design and user research and all these fields that we're working with have a seat at the table. When people
yeah,
talk, design needs to have a seat at the table. I sometimes say, like, hey, sometimes this is the table that we're at. So everybody needs to look into research
yeah,
and how we design the solutions as the table. We are only helping this to really like make it, because if the solutions and the problems you're solving are correct and you are actually doing valuable solutions and products for your customers, then that is your table, that is the business actual. So yeah,
you know,
this really requires um, a leadership aligned with this mission, and having everyone kind of agree on this, because
mhm,
and it really helps us that we are also in the field that is connected to design. I am sure that if we're talking about this, maybe on a SaaS software that is, I don't know, doing databases for whatever transport companies, I'm
no,
sure that this is much harder to do. I'm definitely sure that
yeah,
this
that's
is not
really,
something that get
that's an
everyone.
interesting,
I would say first, I don't think we have succeeded yet. I mean, to
okay,
have that exactly the way you phrased it, like we
yeah,
are not like we're not the apple of our industry for sure.
yeah,
But that's the mission, and that's the we set the bar, let's say, high, and that's what we are aiming for. We are
uh-huh,
really believing in this. and we are trying to do the best we can. But of course, like I mentioned, this couldn't be possible. Our CEO wouldn't be in line with this, and he wouldn't resonate with this, or he wouldn't understand that this business requires this. Or if you don't have a partner, I'm really enjoying working with our head of product, who is a big believer in this mission, in the way we see, in the way we have this design thinking, and the big practitioner at this, and leaving space in the whole product development cycle, and these tight deadlines and product roadmaps and so forth, leaving space for this. So this wouldn't be possible if you don't have partners in crime, let's say, for doing
Yeah.
this. Otherwise, you're just alone, and that's my nightmare. When if I imagine myself being in a company where I need to explain why it's important to do this, that would be my nightmare place to work with. Because that means I need to go from zero again and try
Yeah.
doing this from the scratch, and going through the same, processes that and learnings that we've been through. That, hey, this is not working like this, and we need to change, and we need to evolve. And yeah,
I feel
right.
so
You're
happy.
right. One of the
It's just
best things definitely here is the team behind the product.
Mhm.
It really reflects all the things that I said. So it's actually what I told you is the result of the team and how we work together, and how we value these kind of things. And like I mentioned, user centricity is part of our company values. Like everybody needs to understand, and this needs to be this way, or like creating exceptional solutions, and crafting exceptional work needs to be of value, in order
Yeah.
to put enough emphasis on it and people to understand. And yeah, as a CEO or leader, yeah, you also need to support this and leave space for this if you want this to make it a reality. So yeah, this
That's
is the
awesome.
way I see it. Yeah. Hard to me to say for the PM. Let's say I haven't really hired PMs to be in line with that. But for the user research, wow, that's a complex role actually. Sometimes people like yeah, it's kind of you need to know a bit of everything on your field, because you need to understand what PMs are looking for. You need to understand the customers, and be able to talk to customers and engage with them, but also need to be a very analytical person. So
Yeah.
it's a complex role, and beyond just the analytical skills, and like, okay, running all these stuff and methods, and knowing all this stuff, the way you share your insights, the way you engage with the company, and the way you let's say evangelize, I don't know if that's the word, but the way you share those,
Contextualize. Yeah.
evangelize, there you go, the way you
Yeah.
share everything in the company, and you make all these insights, like you mentioned, like for example, the insights from Dovetail, when we create them in a big topic and we get everything together, user codes, insights, findings, snippets, videos, everything we share with the whole company. So everybody has access to the same information when it comes to that general topic, more like bigger topic or bigger area, so that everyone can experience the same things. Like, hey, I see that interview, I see what that guy said about the feature I worked on, and things like this. So this is important to be also a person who is an advocate for you, and he can share it. It's not just like a person who takes notes and goes home, and that's my role. That's a general thing that I mean, that's also, I think that's also related to different cultures. I'm sure in North America it's a totally different game.
Yeah.
I think here in Europe we are happy if we find driven people who know their game, who know their business, who know how to do things, and who can demonstrate proven experience, and how they do these kind of things, and delivering top-notch work constantly, rather than looking for PhDs to filter out people based on that. Our approach is not really, at least in the company that I'm in right now, is not really based on PhDs and these kind of paper materials, because that's not a guarantee for me. I'm like,
Awesome.
just
And
compared to the things I said that matter.
yeah.
That's actually a good question. So we just recently released our latest iteration of our platform, which we call the S Studio, which focuses on 4 key areas. It's actually the design experience, which is much faster than we had before, and now it's like familiar tools, and just like Figma and all these tools that you can like feel instantly at home and continue your work. But beyond that, we've integrated not just our complex resizing algorithms that gets you from one size to many, but you have like a complex way to do content variations. So let's say you have one template but you need it in 20 languages for all your agencies, for all your, let's say you're a real estate company and you need to share with all your partners the same template. So suddenly you need, 10,000 variations of the same piece of material, but with different content. You can do all these things super fast in a few minutes. Actually, if you have the data sources, you can connect to the visuals and you can generate 10,000 visuals in a matter of 5 minutes if you want to, in all these sizes. So it's depending on the use case you have, but sometimes we can save like entire departments and entire budgets. Sometimes we can save hours and days of work. It really depends on the work you do, but it's impossible not to find value in this. And in order to make it even more powerful, there's a new line of features that we are crafting and experimenting with. Of course, as the Gen AI tools that is actually comes in super handy in creative space. So now you have like your own copilot type of things. You can write your headlines, generate your images, modify images automatically. So saving time also on that side. Sometimes you don't have the perfect asset. Sometimes you don't know how to write a catchy headline, and that's funny. Now you can alter voice and tone of a default message, and you can make it funny just with 10, and you have 10 ideas from our AI engine. So it comes down to saving time, but also like getting better ads and getting better ads faster that can actually work and have impact. But you still have your own control over the things you do. So it's not really automated in the way that you push a button and you get a random thing, which we don't believe is the way to do. And with exactly like I mentioned, with ton of research, we just discovered that these are more like party tricks, which are cool but not really effective. So no one wants to just generate something randomly that's far. We need to make it relevant and extremely on brand and extremely good for all these companies who use us. So this is the way we do it at a high level. And these are the solutions that we provide in order to do that. But the benefits are immense, and it's beyond just, I couldn't fit into a range. It can be like saving way a long time, and we see a lot of big teams adopting our solutions and kind of implementing them along their own companies and multiple partnerships and so forth. Definitely. So we have our pricing is really like and it's constantly changing, but we are experimenting, and we're trying to find the best balance into offer value, but also be able to like get you started and pay as you grow. But our ideal clients are definitely bigger brands and agencies who have multiple creative teams or in-house creative teams who are running their own ad campaigns or who are running the ad campaigns for them. And usually you need all these services to be integrated. So we are aiming for cross-functional creative teams, but usually our end users often are designers or at least creative people with a lot of design-oriented tasks and jobs to be done, let's say. But along those lines. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for the interview, and looking forward to have maybe further discussions. Why not?
We're already
I'm waiting for the 100. So if this was the first, I'm waiting for the 100 interview of Scribe, and then we can do like the 100. Plenty stuff to work in. And that's why I said it's far from perfect. It's far from ideal. It's far from like where so many things still to work on. Like the same issue, like on every other team, you have way more things in the backlog and ideas and priorities than resources. So it's the same product management equation that you need to solve sometimes. Just that wanted to say that we still cannot do everything, and we still don't have the resources to like be the ultimate perfect machine. It's still a
but it just turns into a better product that helps me.
For everything. Thank you. Me too. It was nice to meet you.